When you think about that Hollywood story, I mean, you know the one, that magical tale of the small-town girl plucked from obscurity and whisked away to have all of her big screen dreams come true. Well, that is my mother's story, Janet Leigh.
You an actress?
No, I'd like to be, but I don't think it's going to be very easy.
Born Jeanette Helen Morrison, she was the prototype for the Hollywood dream that girls and women still wish for today. As the story goes, Norma Shear, the queen of MGM, entered the lobby of the Sugar Bowl Ski Lodge in Northern California, where my grandfather Fred worked, saw a picture of Jeanette on his desk and declared, "She's beautiful. May I have that picture?" She took the photo home with her, and mere months later, my mother received a letter inviting her to Hollywood, where she ultimately did her first screen test alongside none other than Van Johnson, one of the biggest heartthrobs of his time.
Man, you look beautiful. Any producer that wouldn't hire you as a girl.
Oh, thanks, Rick. I just don't know where to go or how to get started.
That screen test would land her in her first movie, a Civil War drama called The Romance of Rosie Ridge, and what a debut it was. The film itself is a moving story about post-Civil War conflict and forgiveness.
Your Yankee friends have burned another barn, and that means war. A Yankee has taken my daughter.
But watching my mother on the screen in her big debut, it was her total presence that really blew me away. I mean, she had everything. She held her own with Johnson in a challenging, emotional role.
I was hoping you'd go away from here with me.
And at the same time, she was just jaw-droppingly beautiful. But I know it will be the darker films that will be her legacy.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm calling the police!
No.
This astonishing beauty in this dark, dark world.
The longer we ride, the more things that can happen.
That turn first happened in 1953 with The Naked Spur, a serious psychological film with a great performance by Jimmy Stewart as this totally lost man.
Tell me why. I'm taking him back, I swear it.
And there's my mother in the midst of all of these mountain men, and they hide her figure, literally hide it. I mean, she wears this huge overcoat for most of the film.
What are you doing tonight?
So obviously the producers aren't trading on her physical appearance here. It's all in her performance, in her face. She's rough and tumble, but also mature and deeply emotional. After The Naked Spur, you could say she entered the prestigious part of her career, working with the masters and delivering really complex performances, one right after another. In 1958, she took on the role of Susan Vargas in Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. It's a gritty story, and Janet's character is subject to some pretty harsh stuff.
Get it?
She's kidnapped, drugged, raped, framed for murder. But through it all, Susan is courageous.
You know what's wrong with you, Mr. Grandy? You've been seeing too many gangster movies.
And resilient. And not many people know this, but she actually filmed Touch of Evil with a broken arm. If you look closely, you can see how her cast is hidden in certain scenes. Only a couple of years later, Janet starred in the film she is best known for, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
If you want anything, just tap on the wall. I'll be in the office.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
Norman Bates.
By this time, Janet was at the top of her game. She had a string of box office successes to her claim, which makes Hitchcock's choice to kill her off in the first half of the film a bold statement. It had never been done before and really hasn't been done much since. My mother makes the most of her screen time. She's sexy and evocative and completely draws you in before her sudden and violent demise. Despite perhaps giving her a lasting fear of showers, my mother always spoke highly of her experience working with Alfred Hitchcock, and she remained close with him and his wife Alma for years afterward. There was Bye Bye Birdie and Harper, and she's wonderful in both. But to me, I think The Manchurian Candidate was her last big adult moment. And it's quite a moment. She's quiet, cold, but very interesting. She wrote in her autobiography, There Really Was a Hollywood, that my father served her divorce papers at the studio the day of the train scene with Frank Sinatra, and I watched the movie again recently, trying to see below the surface.
Are you married?
No. You?
No.
And for me, that moment really sums up her evolution, her development as a performer, as a woman, and as a public figure. Despite having every reason to be jaded, she never was. She always believed in the magic of Hollywood, and that she, Jeanette Helen Morrison, from Merced, California, was lucky enough to be part of it.
Excuse me. I read in Variety that Mr. Wallace is casting a new show.
Janet Leigh may have been a star, but I know that there was a part of her that remained Jeanette her whole life.
I may change a lot of things from now on, but my mind isn't about to be one of them.
She never lost her humility, and that is something I'm incredibly proud of her for. For Turner Classic Movies, I'm Jamie Lee Curtis.